I want to begin today by telling you a little bit about one of the hardest moments I had as a psychologist sitting in a therapy session. As with any time that I talk about a former client, the details of this have been anonymized, and I'll add and subtract some details to maintain confidentiality. But there I was, minding my own business in my fourth year as a clinician, and walked into a therapy session with a client. Now, I'd been seeing this client for a few weeks, and this client was already one of my most challenging clients I'd worked with. I found that oftentimes in the midst of a session, he could go from total calm and seeming happiness into moments of rage, into moments of total detachment, and into kind of rants about other people or about me or about his family and the turn of a dime. And so this session, I walked in. I would kind of have to mentally prepare myself, but I could already feel myself being anxious. Walked into the room, sat down in the chair, and said, I'll call this person John. I said, John, so how are you doing this week? And he kind of smirks, reaches down into his backpack. Now, John tended to walk around the area around the clinic, always carrying not just a backpack, but a backpack filled with psychology textbooks or classic texts in psychology. And there would be many times that he would just sort of sit around in front of other clients reading these books, sometimes making snide comments, and very often in our sessions he would walk in and pop quiz me from any one of these. This could be a 1960s book from Abraham Maslow, it could be a 1980s textbook from back on cognitive therapy, and he would typically try to take some obscure fact from that and ask me if I knew about it, and if I didn't know about it or if I couldn't explain it to him, he would kind of smile knowingly and put the book back away. As you can imagine, it triggers some anxiety. I'm a student at this point, and so still trying to figure out who I am as a clinician, still not feeling competent at all and not feeling comfortable with that incompetence. And so sat down feeling uncomfortable. I'd asked him, how are you feeling today, or what's going on? He smiles, smirks, reaches down into his backpack and takes out a notebook. He leans back in his chair and, as if to himself, says, "Therapist says, how are you doing today?" Smirk. I'm kind of stuck for words at this moment, so I say, this is something new. Do you want to tell me a little bit about the notebook? Smirks again, eyebrows raised. Looks down at his notebook and writes, "Therapist asks about notebook." I say, "John, help me understand. This is something new here. I'm wondering what you're wanting to write about. Or is this a notebook that you're writing about?" Therapist doesn't understand the notebook. Expresses confusion. Now, this goes on, but already I am starting to feel anxious, and in my anxiety, I'm starting to feel angry. I've already developed, within the first 5 to 10 minutes, I've developed a headache. I'm starting to sweat. I try everything for the course of this hour to figure out, how do I intervene? I can't remember what all exactly I did in this session. All I know is by the end of it, I felt completely incompetent. I felt like I had just failed as a clinician. I felt like an idiot. I felt disconnected from this client and had no idea what to do. I'll talk a little bit later about this and about some of the supervision that I received. But I want to bring this up as one of the clinical moments that I felt this strange pull of what Lewis Amini and Anand are going to call attractors, the attractors of a client. Because by the end of this session, I felt not just confused, but angry. And I felt like I wanted to leave. I felt like I never wanted to be his therapist again. I just felt this wave of emotions. So today I want to try to make some sense of both how do the attractors, the limbic attractors of an attachment style develop, and what kind of results can they have in our day-to-day relationships.